Hello friends, the article which we are analyzing today is published on Hindu June 30th. The title of the article is In 24 Hours, Palestine Faces an Existential Threat. The article is written by Mr. Hamid Ansari. He is a former Vice President of India. And as usual, this article is mapped as per my model. And to appreciate this article, one should have a little bit background of Israel and Palestinian relationship. What is the situation there? What are the dispute point, and how Israel came into the existence, and a little bit understanding about Indo-Israel relationship. So the context of this article is the recent Israel plan, the recent action, planned action of Israel to annex on July 1 first around 30% of occupied West Bank. So Israel is planning to annex 30% of occupied already, which it has occupied 30% of its West Bank territory. It is planning to annex from July onwards, July 1st onwards. So for this action of Israel, there is a condemnation or there is a protest from all quarters. Like UN Secretary General also has disagreed with this Israeli plan, and some legal expert also is not approving of this Israeli plan to annex the territory. And International Court of Justice also do not approve the forcible annexation of any territory of any other country. And High Commissioner of Human Rights also made his protest known to Israel. So here as per we can see that for Israel, this section of Israel, it is being registered or it is being protested by from all legal UN including UN, legal expert, International Court of Justice, and Human Rights Commission also is not approving this section of Israel. So still Israel is able to do this kind of thing. The reason is that Israel has got the support of powerful friends. Here it is basically indirectly mentioned, but everybody knows that Israel has got the backing of US. And in that respect, Israel said this annexes of West Bank, that opinion poll was conducted, because you have to remember that Israel is a democracy. So what the Israeli citizen have the opinion regarding this action of Israeli government. So that opinion poll gave the mixed result. The detail is written in the article that you can see. So now author asks some pertinent questions. Suppose Israel annex this 30% of occupied West Bank, then what will happen to the people, those who are residing in that land, that area? Because the people, those who are in that occupied territory, they are owning some land there. So will they be allowed to hold their private property? This is the question raised by the writer. Will Palestinians retain their private property? And what will be the legal status of those who come along with the occupied territory? That means in terms of citizenship, how they will be treated in Israel. And you may be knowing that Israel also has a lot of Palestinian and Arabs, Christians, those who are of Arab origin, Arab of Palestine origin. So author asks the question that this new people, those who are coming along with this occupied territory, when Israel occupy this part of this West Bank, then the people, those who are residing in that area, will they be on par with Israeli Arab of Palestinian origin? These are the questions raised by author in his article. And overall, because if you see the struggle of Palestine to have their own state, how this action of Israel will affect their right to have their own state, and how this thing will change the demography of that particular area. So these are the questions raised by the author in his article. And our author call upon Israel to, since it is a member of international community and should observe global norm of state conduct. So author is asking Israel that since now it has become the member of international community, and the action of Israeli government should conform to what is the standard practice of any government. Because here you can see that all the Israeli action are against international law, it is violative of international law, and author is asking that since it has become the part of the international community, Israeli action should not be violative of international law. And in that context, the India-Israel relationship also author has written, and India's traditional relationship with Palestine, and how India supported in all forum the genuine demand of Palestine people. So this is the first analysis of the article, first article. Now I'll go to the second one. The second article which I am analyzing is again published on Hindu, June 30th. The title of the article is Grain Aplenty and the Crisis of Hunger. It is written by Deepa Sinha, and she teaches at Ambedkar University, Delhi. So what author is making an argument here for making universal public distribution system. Because if you see, while this COVID situation is going on, government has taken some measure so that this to mitigate the problem of hunger, particularly providing free ration to all people, migrant people, and those who are already eligible. So in that line, author has made an argument for making it universal for coming 4 months. So just to understand the background of this government measure, we know that central government announced as a part of 1.7 lakhs crore relief package under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana that it would provide 5 kg of food grain and 1 kg of pulse for free to all those who are beneficiary under the National Food Security Act. Later it was expanded to cover additional 8 crore individual under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan package, and the states were given 10% more what they normally get under National Food Security Act. And this is the way government tried to fight COVID related calamity, because people got unemployed, they don't have food to eat, and there was a lot of migrant laborer who are staying away from their family. So for as a temporary measure, government has given this relief to people, and this relief is ending in the month of June, and for that reason there is a demand to increase it by another 3 months. What author is suggesting that this effort of the government was not sufficient. It was not adequate response what we have the situation now. And another pertinent point related to this thing is that that central government has to fight this problem of exclusion, that somebody is getting the ration or somebody is not getting. So to fight this problem of exclusion, government is bringing one nation, one ration card scheme that it is planned to be get started by March 21st. So if in that scheme, one nation, one ration card, any PDS card holder can get ration anywhere in India. He need not to be at the same place from where the ration card has been issued, like what we see related to banking. Because of this computerized banking, anywhere anybody can do the transaction. But this authentication will be done through Aadhaar. So there is one technical component also involved here. Because of some technical glitches, this validation of the person sometimes will be create a problem. So but that is a minor glitch that can be solved. And this government is planning to start this scheme as early as possible, because this is basically done to fight the problem of exclusion. Now author is making a case here for universal public distribution system, in that 10 kg of food grain per person per month for another 4 months will be given. And author hopes that 85% of the population will make use of this benefit, and the total requirement for food grain for this scheme will not be more than 47 million ton. And since we have now at present the stock of 100 million ton, which is much beyond what is required as to keep as a buffer stock, our requirement to keep as a buffer stock is only 41 million ton, and we have in excess of 100 million tons, so almost twice we are having now. And since if we implement this universal public distribution system for just for 4 months, will consume 47 million ton, so somehow will balance it out here. So this excess food grain will be used through universal public distribution system. Otherwise, what you will do with this excess food grain? So the other option is like open market selling, or you can do the export, or let the grain go waste, get it rotten. So these things, this open market selling, the previous experience is not good experience. So author is not suggesting this thing. Export also in this situation is not that much possible that we can export that such a huge quantity of food grain. And again, this allowing it to rot is also not advisable because of this hunger situation prevailing in the country. So for that reason, to make use of this excess food grain, author is suggesting that government should go for universal public distribution system, where it should distribute 10 kg, at least 10 kg of food grain per month for at least for 4 months. So this concludes the analysis of second article. Third article I'll go. The third article which I am analyzing is the STARS project need an overhaul. It is written by Kiran Bhati and Martin House. It is published on June 30th on Hindu. So this article is written in the context of World Bank loan, $3 billion loan for STARS project to improve education in 6 Indian states. So in the context of education and how education get affected by the governance, and how governance is key for improving the education or any other sector in a country, author is focusing on that thing. So for working on any sector, the capacity means the governance or the administration capacity building has no alternative. So for making any effective governance, what are the components required? You see that for any effective governance, we need to have adequate physical, financial and human resource, because then only any efficiency in the system will come. Particularly if you see the education sector, we should have a infrastructure building related to school. We should have a trained teacher and other supporting staff for running education. Without this facility, we cannot improve the education or we cannot bring any efficiency in the system. The second point, author says that in the bureaucracy, those who are at the bottom end, these are the people mostly dealing with the general public, and upper hierarchy of the bureaucracy may not be in direct contact with people, but at this level, those who are at the bottom of bureaucracy mostly deal with the will have the interface with the people, and because of that reason they are in direct contact with the people and they know much better than what is the problem or local issues, because they are having face to face with that issue. So if we enable bureaucracy, those who are working at interface level, public interface level, then we can bring change in governance. So in that regard, must give greater discretion to the frontline bureaucracy to address local issues and for innovation. So those who are working at front line, those who are at public face, if such kind of such people of the government bureaucracy, if we give them discretionary power, give them freedom or autonomy, so that they can take any proper measure related to local issue, and they can also help to nurture innovation. And the third point, which is very much important for effective governance or any business also, what is that point? That point is to have a trust, because without trust neither business nor governance can be run, because you cannot supervise each and everyone. You need to have a trust, and without trust you cannot run the show anywhere. So need to build trust within the administration, among peers, and across different level within the administration. So trust is very important factor which is required for any organization to work efficiently. Without trust, there will not be any fruitful work. And out of all these components, one learns, and that learning process is constant, because you learn by your own experiences. You come to know that what is working, what is not working, and this is a constant feature of governance, that with your past experience you learn and you improve yourself. So that is what is required for that governance model is applicable applicable to every sector, but here we are talking mostly in the context of education sector. So what author is saying, that to have a capacity in the governance, we should have such kind of thing. In that context, World Bank has given a loan of $3 billion. It's a huge sum to improve education in 6 Indian states. And here what we see, that the loan and the loan is given for the different model. What is the difference here? The World Bank is trying to improve education with a different approach. This different approach gives a larger role to private sector, and it is mostly it is making use of this communication technology, computer based, and they are planning to have a standardized assessment. So related to all 3 points, author has a objection, because involving private sector in education sector, newly joined people, those who do not have a much background, particularly on education sector, they do not bring much value to the sector, because they don't have any institutional memory, because they are new to this sector. And other danger is that if private sector come and replace state government, and then the bureaucracy may become indifferent to education sector, because that role is now played by private sector. The second thing is that using information technology or computer based teaching, that also is not going to help, because you cannot compensate ICT with physical or resources or trained manpower. So these are the point author has listed, where we see that failure will happen if we do not give the proper focus. So here we see that it failed to address the basic capacity issue, because the World Bank is focusing on private sector use of ICT, and it is not trying to build up the capacity in governance or capacity in the education system itself. It is not working on addressing the basic capacity issue, and it is not working on or ignoring the decentralization decision making or making devolution of fund. So again, this World Bank driven project is not making any effort related to decentralization of decision making or devolution of fund at the level where it may be more effective. And again, this problem of trust, which is a person to person relationship, this whole thing is being bypassed through ICT, means making the whole activity impersonal. That also is not going to work, and private sector involvement will make government employee indifferent to this sector, because this activity will be mostly taken over by private sector people. So out of this whole thing, what we will see, that the assessment will become like one kind of measurement, but you cannot convert education into just a measurement tool. Education is much more than simply measurement. So here also there is a lacuna in this line. So in that regard, article suggests that we should spend resource on building capacity and bring reform, and do not try shortcut either by using private sector or by using information technology, because the real gain will come when adequate physical, financial and human resource will be developed. So this concludes the analysis of third article. I hope this will help you to improve your understanding. Thank you.